Thank you, Nicholas, for the alley-oop that you just gave me. What does leaving with a Horace Mann education look like? What is that? What could that possibly mean for you when you leave with the Horace Mann education? It might mean being an ambassador and entering the world stage and performing service on a global level for your country. We've had a number of Horace Mann students that have served in our State Department and actually been ambassadors to other countries. Maybe it means being the co-director of the Innocence Project. Horace Mann students did that. Maybe it means that they'll become a world-class musician and a multiple Grammy winner. Horace Mann students did that. Maybe they'll win an Emmy and a Peabody Award for directing and producing documentaries like the Vietnam War. Horace Mann kid. Maybe it means that they will be known as, and you have to understand that Horace Mann were a little bit corny. Maybe they will be known as the Pod Father and create the roadmap to build a dramatic overhaul at Apple and become one of the people responsible for the iPod and the iMac. Horace Mann kid did that. Maybe they'll play in the WNBA and go on to become the head of operations for the WNBA. That particular lion I went to school with, a Horace Mann student, did that. This is a little bit far-fetched, but it could happen. It might mean that you're drafted in the first round of Major League Baseball and be in the MVP race one day. A Horace Mann kid did that. It was funny. Pedro Alvarez, he was in the 30 for 30 club. That seems a little bit outdated now since what Shohei Ohtani did last night. That said, 30 for 30 is pretty good, and Pedro was in the MVP race a couple of years back. It could also mean being a world-renowned surgeon and founding an institution like the Children's Hearing Institute and becoming one of the pioneers in the development of cochlear implants. Horace Mann kid did that. They might even climb Mount Everest. Yeah, we have a Horace Mann alum that climbed Everest. That's the power of a Horace Mann education. With it, you have the chance to overcome any hurdle, any obstacle in the way of fulfilling your dreams. And maybe, just maybe, have an impact on the world and leave it in a little bit of a better place than you found it. Again, my name is Jason Caldwell. As Nicholas said, in addition to being the director of admissions, I'm also an alum. I went to middle school and high school at Horace Mann. My brother went to middle school and high school at Horace Mann. Both my daughters started in kindergarten. My oldest, Cam, is in the ninth grade. She just started high school. So that's been a fun and exciting experience. We were at a community evening yesterday where we had about 150 representatives from families of the 188 families that make up the ninth grade, and kids and parents were mixed up in different groups talking about the unique challenges that face high school students. So you weren't put in the room with your own kid, but you got a chance to hear from other people's kids, and kids got a chance to hear from other people's parents about what perspectives are important as they all try to navigate high school as a family. That was a really fun experience. So yes, my older daughter's in ninth grade. She loves right now, her favorite subjects are biology and history. My youngest daughter also started in kindergarten. She's in the fourth grade. I remember her first day of school, or maybe it was the second day of school, when she exited the school, she ran up to me and said, "Daddy, Horace Mann is the best school ever, 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 and I'm never, ever, ever, ever leaving." As you can imagine, I'm glad things worked out because that could be awkward if it didn't work out. But she's a little bit different than her sister. Her favorite activities are math and dance. My other daughter is actually a big theater kid, and she does theater and she does volleyball and swimming. And, that's one of the reasons I love Horace Mann. Your interest can be different and you can still find a home here. No one's ever going to pigeonhole you at Horace Mann. And you're able to quote unquote, one of the big lines here is you're able to find your people. And teachers here really understand that. And we're able to accommodate kids with a lot of different interests. Another thing that I love about Horace Mann is that we're able to balance a truly amazingly rich and rigorous academic program with a kind, caring, and diverse community. Horace Mann is one of the more diverse independent schools in the country. 55% of our students identify as students of color. And then another 2 to 3% identify as international students. Now, I make that distinction because I'm sure that even some of you that might be abroad right now, your children might actually be US citizens. So even if they haven't spent a huge majority of their time here in the States, they're US citizens. We consider international students who are not US citizens. So even if they've spent a large majority of their time away, you have to be not a new US citizen in order to be international. The other thing that I love, and since once again we're talking nursery through 12, in our nursery, I love that our faculty are inspired by the Reggio Emilia approach to learning. They often see themselves as researchers, watching intently as the children play in the beginning. And then after that, the faculty document what ideas could potentially be the subject that could hold the interest of the kids at the nursery division. And then they use that theme to build literacy and logic skills. So they might say, okay, the theme this year is going to be Egypt. The theme this year is going to be a restaurant. The theme this year is going to be NASA. And then they build the lessons and the curriculum around that theme because that's gaining the interest of the kids. I love that in the nursery division, whether it's through sensory play or block building or loose parts manipulation or exploration of different art mediums like photography, children build their intellectual skills as they also engage in research and delve into a number of different investigative and observational opportunities themselves. I love that the kids at the nursery division are as engaged on the rooftop deck as they are in our music or movement classes. I love that we do deal with race as early as that age, and we start to explore different skin tones through art. That way, kids can explore race in an age-appropriate and thoughtful manner. I love that when you move to the lower division, we have a number of different resources. So whether you're talking about our lower division chorus and band, our Women in Science and Engineering program, a fully integrated robotics program, and chess for kindergartners, there are a lot of different options for kids. The kids in the lower school will primarily use our turf field, affectionately called the grasshopper. That said, they do have access to the other two fields that are up here in the Bronx on the middle and upper division campus, 4 acres and alumni field. When you get over to the middle and upper division campus, the lower division students will also use our aquatic center. We have $100 million student center, science center, and aquatic center on the middle and upper division campus, and the lower division students will use that for swimming study as well. In the lower division, we have put a lot of thought and care into the reading and writing program we use, Fontes and Pinnell. It really meets kids where they are in terms of their reading journey, and it has really served us well. Don't get me wrong. So my older daughter did not do Fontes and Pinnell, and don't get me wrong, she had an amazing education. The lower division was absolutely great for her too. But I do take a look at the difference in how my younger daughter does approach for reading and reading comprehension. And it is vastly superior, and the switch has been amazing. When I think about math, something that has been pretty steady for the last, oh my goodness, 12, 13 years now, we do Singapore math at Horace Mann in the lower division. And that's something that's important. So attention is given to concepts and not rote memorization. And I have to say, my younger daughter, as I said, she has a really big interest in math. She does Russian math outside of school. And I have to say that the Horace Mann math curriculum really prepared her for Russian math. Like she was like fit so seamlessly into it with kids that have been doing it since kindergarten. She started in third grade and picked right up on it. And that's because of Horace Mann. Our science program is really robust. Katie Diaz is probably, and I might be a little bit biased, I believe she is one of the best elementary science educators in New York City. And the curriculum really is hands-on. We have a really wonderful STEAM lab at Horace Mann that students will use and utilize in addition to just their regular scientific study. Every grade kind of has a different little quirk or thing that makes it fun. Or they have a number of them, but it would take me forever to go through all of them. So I'll just pick one per grade. So for instance, in first grade, something that kind of defines that experience is a grade-wide talent show at the end of the year where every first grader gets a chance to participate and their friends are cheering them on. In the second grade, they do a big research project actually called the Wax Museum Project. The Wax Museum Project is sort of one of the big first history projects they do, or rather, it's more like it can be historical or contemporary. You pick a figure and you do a research project, then you dress up as that figure. You have to turn in written work, but then you also have to make a presentation to the class. So every day during the course of a week, and typically March or April, five students will present over the course of a week to their class and do like a PowerPoint presentation. And then they each dress up as their assigned person. And classmates will go around to stations where they have to answer just additional questions about the person that they research. So that's something that's great. So once again, they are doing research, they're presenting, and then they're also answering questions about what they've learned. In third grade, kids are asked to develop a theoretical invention that will make the world a better place. This is called the Invention Convention. Kids gather around in our gym and pitch their ideas with a model replica of the idea that they've built. When you walk around, I have to admit, it kind of resembles Shark Tank because they're pitching a cost for how much this might cost and what the price might be to sell this item too. So it is very, very interesting as they do that. In fourth and fifth grade, I think the things that the kids really get excited about is a new level of independence. While traveling as a homeroom, they go and they have the classes are departmentalized now. So they have a different teacher for math, world language, English, social studies, and science. Okay. And I know this might not seem like a big thing to adults, but I trust you, this is a big thing to kids. They get their own lockers and they are so excited to get their own lockers. And when you're 9 years old, 10 years old, that's a big deal. That's a big deal to get your own locker. And so they're moving from cubbies to lockers. And so that's something that's important. One of the highlights of Horace Mann, and we do this in the lower division and now in the middle division as well, is our ruler program that focuses on social emotional learning. Through the efforts of our head of school, Dr. Tom Kelly, and our lower division head, Dina Newworth, for the past, oh my goodness, 9 years, we've been in partnership with Mark Brackett and the Yale Center for Social Emotional Intelligence to make sure our kids learn the language of communication, not only being aware of their own feelings, but also being aware of the feelings of those around them. Our lower division faculty has engaged in extensive training around this, and our middle school faculty is doing that right now. As I think about Horace Mann, it's easy to think about the nursery division campus and the lower division campus and the middle and upper division campus. We are very fortunate. 80 miles outside of New York City, we have our John Doerr Nature Laboratory. The John Doerr Nature Laboratory is a 300-acre nature lab that we use for environmental and ecological study. We use it for our orientations. We use it for team building. Kids start to go up to Doerr as early as second grade. In the third grade, they start sleeping over at Doerr. In the eighth grade, they do a 5-day intensive at Doerr. Part of that trip will engage in a hike on the Appalachian Trail. And then for kids nursery through first grade, the Doerr teachers actually come to them and work with them. Doerr is a really important part of our legacy. When I think about the middle division, I got to say I'm really energized by our middle division head, Javed Khan. Javed is also a Horace Mann alum, like myself. Mr. Khan, before joining Horace Mann, was the division head, the head of the middle school at Bank Street, which is a school in Manhattan, and also the director of diversity at Poly Prep. He was also a basketball coach and is still an English teacher to this day. It's funny, Mr. Khan's youngest brother is actually one of my oldest friends at Horace Mann. We went to Horace Mann together. Mr. Khan has really done a good job of making sure that our writing center, math center, academic center, and ever so popular middle division reading room are really great resources for our kids, whether they need academic help or just need a little bit of a recreational place to do their work with friends. While kids don't move as a homeroom together anymore, they have their own individual schedules in middle school. Their dean, class dean, and their advisor will move with them all the way through middle school. One of our really coolest communal spaces at Horace Mann is our middle division atrium. It's a really cool place. It kind of looks like a mini amphitheater inside the middle school. Kids will come there for grade-wide meetings. Students will go there to do work informally with teachers, with friends. There are some recreational things like foosball tables set up there as well. We have a full-time student activities and service learning coordinator in the middle division. And in the middle division, while we have physical education in all grades, nursery through 12, in seventh grade, that is when competitive sports begin at Horace Mann. And it's so interesting, right? You have some kids that will come and join a sports team having played that sport for years. My older daughter was on a outside swim team since she was in second grade. So when she joined seventh grade, swimming in seventh grade, it was easy for her. However, it's at Horace Mann that she discovered her love of volleyball. And I have to be honest, she loves volleyball now more than she loves swimming. So that's the hope, right? The hope is that you're going to continue to improve on those activities that you're already really good in, and that you're going to develop some other activities, some other interests that you can become good in. Okay. And that's something that's really important. The assembly program at Horace Mann is a weekly staple in the middle division. One of the things I love about the assemblies is that students can sometimes present at assemblies, and then all other times we have outside speakers. One of my favorite stories, and it's because everyone sort of takes away what they will from a speaker. So George Takai came to speak at Horace Mann. He was talking about the graphic novel that he wrote called They Call Us Enemy, talking about his experiences in internment camps during World War II. The students knew him as an activist for the rights of Asian Americans, activists for the rights of the LGBTQ plus population. But the adults, if you remember, George Takai was on Star Trek. So while the students were so excited about this book and this author coming to talk, the adults were like, oh my God, that's Sulu. It was very, very funny and a really surreal day when he was here, but it was pretty awesome. When I think about Mr. Khan, something that he does every Sunday, he'll send out a weekly email, a weekly communication to kids, one detailing what's going to be happening through the week, but also talking about these things called commendations, recognizing acts of kindness that take place in this busy hustle and bustle, very rigorous school. Having had a kid that just finished the middle school, the work ramps up again. The lower division academic program is rigorous and intensive. The middle division academic program also ramps it up a bit too in eighth grade. And so it's nice to have a head that sort of focuses on that community aspect as well. As I pivot to the high school, I think about Dr. Jessica Levenstein and how she's guided the school through significant innovation. So in the midst of the construction of that $100 million Science Center, Student Center, and Aquatic Center in 2018, she helped make the transition from trimesters to semesters. The idea with that is that way teachers weren't cramming in so many assessments, trying to get stuff graded. And I have to say, I understand why they were doing that. They want to give kids as many cracks at the apple to improve their grade as possible, but can also create a little bit of stress. When you do semesters, it elongates the period where you have to give assessments. So you're not cramming so much stuff in, and you're giving more space for kids to breathe and giving a little bit more time in between assessments. She helped us make the transition from advanced placement courses to our own honors and advanced course curriculum, affectionately called the 400 level courses. That's the big 400 level. That's the big colloquialism that we use for our advanced courses in the high school. And she oversees an abundance of resources. When I say abundance, what do I mean? At Horace Mann, in any given year, we have anywhere from 25 to 27 different publications, 61 different athletic teams, varsity, junior varsity, boys, girls, and co-ed, and 75 different clubs. I actually am the advisor to a podcast at Horace Mann that focuses on quote unquote nerd culture. It's a lot of fun. We review movies, comic books, video games, stuff like that. Just to give you a sense of how inventive these advanced courses are, these 400 level courses. We have one called Seminar in Literature Studies, Man's Search for Meaning, Comparative Race and Ethnicity, East Asian History, Legal History, Studies in French, Studies in Spanish. Those replaced our AP Spanish and French classes. In Calculus Enriched Honors, Molecular Biology, Evolution and Ecology, Organic Chemistry. What kid takes organic chemistry before college? Theoretical computer science, physics with calculus, environmental science, the art of data, art history. So we are able to offer kids a really robust education in the high school. The dean's office in the high school is incredible. As I said, the dean's office and the counseling and guidance office just ran an amazing evening to help give kids and parents a little bit of insight onto which of the other group is thinking. We have our Center for Community Values in Action. It's a cornerstone for service learning on campus and a great resource for the Bronx, the borough we call home. In terms of our DEI work, for the last 13 years, we've been on the forefront of DEI. That said, the work always evolves. It's always changing. We have a student of color mentoring group called STEPS that we use in the middle school. We partner with Pollyanna, which is a diversity resource curriculum, nursery through 8th grade. And we have an amazing series on race in our history department in the high school. We've also instituted anti-bias training and in our DEI work, or rather in our work with the Yale Center for Social Emotional Intelligence. In our 6th grade, we have our seminar on identity course. That's something that's really great. In terms of some technical aspects of the school, okay, Horace Mann is the biggest independent school in a tri-state area. We have about 1,800 plus kids. I say plus because we're a little, I like to say we're fully enrolled, not over enrolled. So 1,800 plus. I won't let you know how many the plus is, but we have 1,800 plus students this year. Typically, it's about 1,800, nursery through 12th grade. Average class size in the lower division, typically about 19 kids, 20 kids per class, with 2 master teachers in the kindergarten. In grades 1 through 3, it's a teacher and an assistant teacher. And as I said, grades 4 through 5, they're moving around class to class as they departmentalize. For those of you looking at kindergarten, I've had the opportunity to have my kids in both of the kindergarten classes uptown in the Bronx, and all 4 teachers are fantastic. In the middle and upper division, the average class size is about 15, 16 kids per class. Okay. For those of you entering this fall, as you can tell, you'll have a mix of virtual and in-person events. For those of you in town, we have our first big open houses coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend on the 28th and the 29th. We have our upper division information session at 10 o'clock on the 28th. We have our middle division information session at 2 o'clock on the 28th. And we have our nursery, kindergarten, and lower division information sessions at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock on Sunday, September 29th. A couple of changes to the application this year. One, in order to guarantee that you get an interview slot, you have to submit your application by October 15th and schedule by October 15th. So that's the first big thing. 2, while most schools always made their parent statement required, this is the first year that we are also making our parent statement required. I have to admit, I don't know an InAmerica family that did not do the parent statement. So I don't think, Nicholas,
We always do
right?
it. we
They
always
them,
do
so
it. Don't even worry about that.
I'm not even worried about that, but I gotta put it in there. For those of you with kids applying for 6th grade through 11th grade, back in the day, we used to allow you to submit what via SAGNY school essays. We're not doing that anymore. We're asking you to do our essays, and we have 2 short essays that we ask you to do. So we ask you to do our essays. We always did testing, even during the pandemic. Did testing. And the reason why we felt comfortable with testing, one, we feel it's important. It gives us some very valuable data in the admissions process and beyond. 2, while it's important, it's never been the first thing that we looked at or the only thing that we looked at. So we were comfortable keeping it. Okay. That said, we have testing. So if you're applying to kindergarten, you have to take the FLI, First Look Insight, if you're applying for kindergarten or 1st grade. Applicants applying to Grades 2 through 4 need to take a test called the IC primary. And if you're applying grades 5 and up, you can take the ISEE or SSAT. We'll accept either one. I just gave you a lot of information. Before I turn it over to your questions, I'm going to boil what I love about Horace Mann down to this. Yes, clearly it's the fact that the sky's the limit. And as I gave you some examples of what Horace Mann students and alumni have gone on to do, it's super impressive. You know, add that to leaders in the financial field. Oh my God. The thing I love most about Horace Mann is that 29 people that graduated from this school between 1995 and 1999 were at my wedding. The friendships that you build at Horace Mann are friendships you're going to have for the rest of your life. Okay. One of those people is my brother. My brother is one of my best friends. But just like my brother's one of my best friends, those other 28 people are like members of my family. Okay. It goes both ways. All right. So when I watch both of my daughters, my 14-year-old and my 9-year-old, build relationships similar to that, it really warms my heart. Okay. When I think about the experiences I've had with my friends, the things that I've learned from them, I couldn't have done that anyplace else but Horace Mann. All right. So without further ado, Nicholas, I'll let you moderate and you'll pick people for questions or start off with the questions that you have from people. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And I have to say, Jason, you sold me in the beginning when you really painted the picture of who is a Horace Mann kid, but also like what does a Horace Mann graduate look like? That was just amazing. So I think you really showed us all the power of that community.
Thank you so much, Nicholas. It really is impressive when I think about the things that people do. And hey, how about this? I'll end with this. You know, as I said before, I'm not going to end with this. I'm going to take questions. I'm glad I'm not. But I think about someone even in my own house, my brother. My brother is an attorney. He's a prosecutor. He works for the DA's office in Buffalo, and he worked on that very famous mass shooting case in Buffalo. And he was one of the lead prosecutors on that case. And he was fighting for people who couldn't fight for themselves anymore, you know, and dealing with an issue around racism and anti-Semitism and mass violence. And, you know, that's what he decided to do. You know, he was very passionate about that. And he can work anywhere that he wants now after the recognition from that case, but he chooses still to fight for people, you know, and that's the thing. That's the power of a Horace Mann education.
Beautiful. All right. Well, I'm going to pass on questions to other people in the Zoom. So I'm going to let Fawn, I'm going to let you go on ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask Jason a few questions. And then I'll let you take it away. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Nicholas. So thanks very much for sharing, Jason. I love to hear your journey and passion about Horace Mann. So actually, I'm from Long Island. So I work with several families one of my friend's kids actually is applying for Horace Mann right now. I believe he has an interview next month, I think with you. So would love to hear some, insights from you as well.
With the new deadlines, we're interviewing early too. So we started our interviews the second week of school. So we have a trickle of people in. We're kind of tuning up as we go through it. Next week, I think it's kind of our first full week.
So my first question is, definitely one of the key questions, what kind of candidates, students are you looking for here? Do you have when you evaluate them, is there any weight about their academic excellence, art, sports, overall portfolio, reference letter, etc.?
Sure. So at the end of the day, and let's I'm going to use two examples. That way we don't take up all the time on this one question. I'll talk about a younger child, and then I'll talk about an older child. Okay, so let's talk about kindergarten, and we'll talk about 6 through 11. When we talk about a kindergartner, at the end of the day, we're looking for kids that are curious about the world. So kids that they really want to learn. Kids that can deal with the number of transitions that we have. So there are a lot of transitions from class to class or subject to subject, activity to activity. Once again, you're talking about STEAM lab, robotics, chess. The kindergarten cottage is in a different building than the main school. So even library, lunch. So there are a lot of transitions in their negotiating camp. And so a kid that can deal with transitions. kids that can advocate for themselves, and kids that are going to be big community members. After that, kids can be very, very different at Horace Mann. We have a big tent. It's not an infinite tent, but it's a bigger tent than people might think. In terms of middle and high school, kids with, really good executive functioning skills, kids with good study habits, kids too that are passionate and curious about the world, kids that want to learn, kids that are good teammates, so kids that can really collaborate well. And then kids that really want to interact with teachers. The teachers that teach at Horace Mann could teach anywhere in the country. They choose to teach at Horace Mann because they know the caliber of the kids. After that, too, yes, kids are all very, very different. They have a lot of different interests.
So you're just going to pick the kids who are excel at something at least, right?
Well, I would say, you have some kids that choose to focus on one thing, and some kids that have a lot of different interests, and then sometimes the kids that don't necessarily have access to be able to sort of specialize or excel. So we look at kids, we look at the process holistically, we look at each kid as they are, but we do need kids that can handle the rigor of the program.
So what about parents, though? You mentioned about the parent statement,
Sure.
and during the interview, the parent will be interviewed too, right?
Sure. I would say of parents, the first thing, we're looking for people that we can partner with. And as a result, the thing that we look for in parents is we need to know that we're going to have great communication. Okay. And at the end of the day, I would say 95% of this experience is going to be fun, right? It's going to be a great experience, but it's school. Kids are going to be dealing with some adversity. And, if you're applying to kindergarten and it's 13 years, if you're applying to sixth grade and it's 7 years, seventh grade, 6 years, ninth grade, 4 years, if you think your kid is not going to have a bad day at some point in time, that they might not have some stress or might have something to deal with, no, it's going to happen. We want to know that we can partner with you in those moments, that we'll reinforce things that you're doing at home, that you'll reinforce things that we're doing at school. Because at the end of the day, we all want the child to be successful. Okay. So communication, that's something that we look for, knowing that parents are going to be reasonable, knowing that parents are going to be involved members of the school. We have a lot of things. We have a very active parents association at Horace Mann. There are a lot of things that parents can do. So we want parents to be present. We want parents to be visible. Now it looks different ages. For instance, my daughter sees me in ninth grade. She's like, oh no, please don't look, whereas my fourth grade daughter sees me, she runs and still gives me a big hello. I would say nursery through fifth grade, your experience as a parent is going to intersect with your child's experience. The older they get, the less it stops intersecting, the more it starts to run parallel. Doesn't mean that you're not there, but the child is taking more of the onus. So also parents that are going to grow and evolve with their child and know that their child will be getting independence, and that family to give the child the independence they need as well.
Okay. Yeah. So what's so special about Horace Mann? I know you love the school, but there are other good schools in Bronx. There are other good schools in Manhattan. So if you're gonna use a few words to summarize, how is it different from other schools?
Once again, for those of you that are on the call, I did not know that this question was going to be asked. So we're not in collusion, but you did just set me up for something. I sometimes address this. Let's assume Horace Mann, and I'm not saying it is, but just for the purposes of this question, this example, let's assume Horace Mann is the best school academically. Yes, if you go to the second best school, you're still going to be okay in life. So why should you choose to come to Horace Mann? You should choose to come to Horace Mann because it's not a binary choice. At the end of the day, you can have rigorous academics and still have a really kind, caring community. You can have a community with core values that focus on kids leading great and giving lives. What are some of our core values? Mutual respect, secure environment, mature behavior, a balance between individual achievement and a kind, caring community, and the life of the mind. All right. These are things that we live every day at Horace Mann. Also, once again, the fact that you can go out there and work really hard and be in a physics lab, and in the same token, be out there on the tennis court or a soccer field and be giving it your all. The fact that, once again, very rigorous, but the kids are not in competition with each other. They're collaborating with each other. Okay. And once again, that we foster relationships here. We don't sort of have kids or pit kids against each other. Those are the things that are special. And yes, you have the physical things, like I said, $100 million science center, the John Doerr Nature Laboratory. These are certainly things that help us stand out. But those are just things. The people at Horace Mann are what make Horace Mann special.
Thank you so much, Jason.
No problem. Thank you for those questions. And I swear, once again, didn't know that question was coming.
And I'll say collusion, but either way, that's just a joke. All righty. So I do see that there are a few questions here within the chat. I want to focus back in on what you were talking about in terms of admissions process for kindergarten and preschool. There's a few questions in here about the actual criteria that's being assessed on that kindergarten and preschool level. Now, I know you spoke about community engagement, how they're able to interact with the teachers, but if you could just expand a little bit more on that, maybe what does the FLI actually assess? What are some of those indicators? Yeah, that'll be perfect.
So the FLI is assessing mathematical and literacy and verbal concepts, okay? So it's not an aptitude test. It is really talking about the skills that we think a student coming into our kindergarten should have. That way they are really set up for success with our curriculum. Okay, so like any test, it is examining the skills of where the kids are at that moment in time.
Okay, perfect. And I think that is helpful. And yes, once again, in the chat here, it's called FLI. I think a lot of applicants. Exactly. A lot of applicants have no idea what that is. So it's just nice to get a little bit of insight into FLI. All right. Perfect.
Nicholas, really quickly, while you tee up the next question, can I run and get some water real quick?
Please do.
I'll be right back, okay?
No, that's okay. That always happens to me. So go ahead. All righty. So in terms of the next question, and once again, we still have a few minutes. So if you have questions, put them here in the chat. So just so everyone knows, as soon as Jason returns, the next question I will ask, just because I know everyone's interested, is how is Horace Mann able to use New York City as their playground? I know we spoke a lot about John Doerr and the whole nature laboratory. We spoke about their beautiful new campus and their expansion, but wanted to know about maybe some of like the sites and the popular areas that the school explores and takes its students. So when Jason returns, we'll talk a little bit about Horace Mann's interaction with the greater New York City. That is what's coming.
Sorry about that, guys.
Oh, perfect. All right. So, Jason, so what I was saying is the next question I wanted to bring up was, how does Horace Mann interact really with the larger environment? Obviously, New York City is the playground. It's next door. So, or actually you're in New York City. So I wanted to know a little bit about how you're able to use the city as the playground, as a learning environment for your students.
My goodness. So whether you're talking about the lower division, and if they're doing something on life sciences, taking a trip to the Bronx Zoo to study animals and their habitat, or whether you're talking about when in the middle school, they discuss the history of New York. And so they do a walking tour of New York City, going to the Tenement Museum, or also going to the Brooklyn Bridge, or engaging in their own individual projects. I taking my daughter, so in the 6th grade, my daughter wound up doing a study on enslaved people. And we wound up going to right across the street from Horace Mann, we have Van Cortlandt Park. Van Cortlandt Park is one of the biggest parks in New York City. There's a Van Cortlandt Park Museum. What I did not know, and I'm a grown person, was that Van Cortlandt Park was once a plantation owned by the Van Cortlandt family at one point. The Van Cortlandt Museum actually used to be one of the houses that was used for enslaved people. So my daughter did a whole project on this, and it was fascinating, okay? whether you're talking about the Met, whether you're talking about going to synagogues or mosques or temples, okay, or churches. We utilize New York quite a bit. Whether we go to, I think in last year, the kids went to the play Before Juliet. So Broadway is incorporated as well into the curriculum. So we utilize New York quite a bit. Now, this is really just my personal opinion, this thing I'm about to say next. I would say the thing that warms my heart about our interactions with New York would be our Center for Community Values in Action, and that's our service learning component. Now, whereas some of the activities took people all around the five boroughs of New York, I would say that the vast majority of the service work we do, it exists in the Bronx. Horace Mann's in a pretty interesting place. Obviously, it's an independent school. We're in one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in New York City, but Riverdale, that neighborhood, is in the poorest borough. Okay, so we have a very interesting relationship with the Bronx. So we work with a number of different service agents, Marble Hill projects. We work with Riverdale Neighborhood House. We work with Mercy House. We work with Van Cortlandt Park Conservatory. We work with a number of different agencies in the Bronx. That way we can all make the Bronx, the borough that the school calls its home, a better place. So we work extensively in the city. The city is part of the classroom at Horace Mann.
Beautiful. And I think that actually set me up for my next question, which is a focus on citizenship and service, which is one of the values of Horace Mann. Is there a community service requirement like we know some schools have, or is there just more of an emphasis on give back and volunteerism? And how does that look at Horace Mann?
So the service learning team, once you get into the high school, is not mandatory, but you'll be surprised how many kids go ahead and do it. So Slurn, and it works as a team. So if you're doing the service learning team, so for instance, if my daughter chose to do the service learning team, she couldn't do it during the fall or the winter because that's when she plays sports every day after school, and it works like a commitment, like a sports team might do. However, every single grade will engage in service learning projects throughout the year. There used to be an individual hourly component, but students will engage in service learning projects throughout the year. That said, kids do a lot of stuff, especially in our high school individually. So we have our Summer in the Hill program. Students will do that, and that's a long-serving Horace Mann program. Another legacy program at Horace Mann is Saturday morning tutoring, which students will do. And so students that engage in these things do it way past they actually have to do for the requirement. They're doing it because they really care about the community around them.
Do applicants for kindergarten and preschool need to live in Manhattan?
Oh, that was I think we'll get to those questions in a minute. I guess let me finish this, and I'll let Nicholas dole that out. But I will get to that. I promise. I will not forget that question. But yes, the kids that do service work at Horace Mann, applicants service learning programs do exist in the lower division and the nursery as well. Those things are taken up by a class, and a class will engage in a service project.
Perfect. And I think that last question that was just said, like midway through, if you just want to answer that really quickly, that'll be perfect.
Sure, not a problem at all. So no, kids that want to enter the nursery do not have to live in Manhattan. Now, obviously, it's going to be a little bit easier if you do. So threes, pre-K, and the three kindergartens that we have in Manhattan. There are 5 kindergarten classrooms. 3 of them are in Manhattan. 2 of them are up here in the Bronx. But the 3 kindergartens that are in Manhattan, the pre-K and the threes, we don't have transportation or work with transportation service providers. So it's up to families to get kids to and from the nursery division. That said, no, you don't have to live in Manhattan. It's not prohibitive, but you should, if you don't live in Manhattan, you should really have a plan about how you're going to get kids to and from. In general, in terms of population, the transportation service providers that we work with will take kids to the Bronx, all over Manhattan, parts in Connecticut, parts of Jersey, parts of Westchester. We don't have transportation to Long Island, Queens, or Brooklyn.
Perfect. And I know it's 10:35, but I have two really quick questions, and then we're going to call the day, Jason. If you can really quickly just talk about entry spots. Of course, everyone wants to know
Sure.
about when is a great time to come to Horace Mann. So that's an easy question.
For sure, that's an easy question. Once again, I'll plug again. Please get your applications in by October 15th. And if you're applying to an entry spot, schedule your interview. Okay, don't wait till the 16th because then it's we reserve the right to activate who we want. So entry points. In the threes, we take about 42 new students in the threes. In pre-K, we take 10 to 12 new students. In kindergarten, we take about 35 to 40 new students. Sixth grade, we take 55 to 60 new students. Seventh grade, we take 10 to 15 new students. Eighth grade, on average, we add about 5 to sometimes even 7 new kids. Ninth grade, that's the big one. We take 40 new kids. Okay, so actually the biggest one is sixth grade, but ninth grade, we take 40 new kids. Other than that, we add kids based upon attrition. So as kids might exit Horace Mann, then we replace those students. We don't add new students.
Perfect. And it's funny, we actually have a webinar coming up next at 10:40, and that's going to focus in on how to create your school list. So just wanted to hear from you, Jason, what is one piece of advice? We don't need an explanation, but just that one piece of a simplified advice that you have for families taking these first steps now.
Oh, no problem. It's very easy. Keep an open mind. You know, it's very easy to go into this process thinking, oh, wow, that's the school I've got to go to. Okay. And then maybe you discount another school. Get as much information, hear from as many different people as you can. If you're in a location where you can visit places in person for an information session or open house or a tour or whatever that might be, go. Yes, go to the place that you love, but go to the place you didn't even think about. Okay. Try to have a diverse list of schools.
Perfect. Jason, thank you so much. I think that was a wonderful plug because I'm going to say the same thing in the next 2 minutes. So I appreciate that. So Jason,
and once
always
again,
a pleasure. Oh,
I did not coordinate with Nicholas.
No, and this one, there's no collusion here. You heard it from Jason and you heard from me separately. All right, Jason, always a pleasure. I'll definitely be speaking to you very soon, but always a pleasure doing this with you, okay?
Talk to you later, my friend. Bye-bye.
All righty, Jason. All right, and that was Horace Mann, everyone. So it is 10:38 at this point. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. I see that Victor is here. He's ready to join me. So I'm going to just take a very quick 2-minute break, and then we're going to transition into our very own webinar on how to create and construct your school list, as well as the factors that go into this pretty complicated process. So stay tuned, and we'll be back very shortly.
InAmerica International was born in 2013 in Philadelphia and nurtured in New York City, two hotspots for elite U.S. colleges and universities. With over a decade of experience, InAmerica has assembled a diverse professional consulting team with a rich and trustworthy network of comprehensive educational resources. We use an exclusive long-term planning theoretical model. We provide a comprehensive assessment of each family that compares indicators of success from the private school interview system with their personal needs and goals. Courses designed to improve students' critical thinking and writing skills, all while developing their passion for learning. Personalized background enhancement services tailored to each student's unique interests. Our support incorporates school academic planning and activities advising, plus background enrichment, plus internship application and guidance. Our experienced consultants evaluate each student to guide them through every step of the application process, while considering their unique strengths and areas that need to be further developed. Our interview training course, developed by senior consultants from Ivy League universities, increases students' comfort level and competency with high-impact interviews. A skilled team consisting of native English-speaking consultants, editors, and a senior essay mentor supports students in brainstorming their personal and supplemental essays. Families receive a multi-dimensional refinement of their application materials, overseen by a team of industry professionals. The skills learned through the consulting partnership are invaluable to every student's future. Our highly specialized educational resources support students' college learning and career development well beyond their initial applications. The consulting team provides a comprehensive evaluation of each student's background. They analyze past